Hi there. Brittle Riders, Book 3, an excerpt, a quick word of warning. I use words you're normally used to hearing, but in completely different context. Hopefully context clues will get you through. Here we go. Brittle Riders, Book 3. Knack and his wife of 4 sons, Wellhern, were in their private study quietly reading. The Smalls were at her sister's house for a party, and they were enjoying some much-needed calm time. They'd heard the news about Calendar, and Knack had to admit he was glad he was nowhere near that disaster. He could see no good thing coming from that, at least not until the armies of the North scorched the place and started over. It was going to be a bloody battle, and he wanted none of it. He was one of the 4 vice lords for the fear stands, and that provided him all the excitement he needed. Better to duel with paperwork than swords. His wife heartily approved of that attitude, or so he thought. Knack, he looked over to see his wife looking at him quizzically. You knew Sland, didn't you? Yeah, I still do. I see him from time to time when he stops by. He wouldn't have been my first choice to rule Calendar, but who knows what actually happened. Do you miss it? The action and all? No. It's not like in the songs they sing for feasts. Battle is hard, bloody work. Brands die. I buried more of my friends after the battle with Jacquenar than I care to think about. She considered him for a moment, and then continued. You don't talk much about it, but I know it haunts you. Some evens you moan and toss. I can almost hear the sounds of war coming from you. You should talk about it with someone, even if it isn't me. It was his turn to consider her. She was right, he knew that. The dreams weren't going to stop on their own, although he'd hoped they would. And now that the topic was open, he could think of no one better to tell than her. After all, she'd agreed to share her life with him, and that had to count for something. We were barely a click outside of the city when we were confronted by a squad of very angry Mayanoran. He talked for 3 solid clicks without pausing. He told what he saw, what he felt, and why it haunted him. He told of the training with the Badjabeth, his friendship with Zarn, the blood cascading across the parched fields, the death of Pord, bravely trying to hold off a wall of Naradama as they were coming down upon him. He told it all. When he was done, he felt about as empty as anyone can feel, but also felt better. She listened to every word without comment. When it was clear he was finished, she poured the meat a small snifter of Eastern brandy and sat back down. When I was a small, the males in the village would play warrior and villain. They would wave their sticks, since no one was stupid enough to give them real swords, and then would scream, "Arrgh!" and another would scream, "Gotcha, ya blighter!" And even though I doubt any of them knew what the word meant, then, when it was all over, they'd stand them up, dust themselves off, and go home friends. As much as it pains me to admit this is the only way I ever thought about war, somehow civilized and honorable. I am sorry for that now. Unlike you, I grew up here, within the walls. Jacquenar was outside, not here. Yantar was there, not here. All of the things everyone else worried about were there, not here. And now I find that all my life I've just been a silly little femme, wondering why you didn't want to hoist a flag or wear a uniform on feast terms. If I'd endured 1/10 of what you survived, I probably would have taken my own life to stop the pain. Until now, I never realized how brave and how strong you must be to put all these things aside, to keep them away from me and the Smalls, to keep them inside you, to save us the pain. You deserve a better wife than I. He shook his head no. He certainly did not believe that, and then he got up and hugged her tightly. The pain gone. He felt alive again in ways he'd thought long buried. He felt his love for her as a burning thing, something inside of him that would warm him on the coldest evens. They barely made it to the floor before they were both naked and panting. Fortunately, for all, her sister was a wise femme, 3 sons older than Wellhern, and she knocked before bringing the Smalls back in the house. Hope you liked it, the Brittle Riders. Buy it everywhere.